Welcome to Sleep Atomic, and today we're getting into Echo Season 1, Episode 1, Chafa. And I'm not too familiar with Echo, but she does have some interesting references across the internet, and she seems pretty cool to me. Seems like centered around Daredevil, but this time she's mostly around Kingpin, so Kingpin can have a backstory other than like crime lord. We'll obviously notice a bunch of things like inlaid in there, like the beginning part is kind of like that primordial from the earth kind of thing. Not sure if it's solely indigenous, but that is a trait of our character here. Initially, what drew me in was she was supposed to be like a muscle mimic or something, because maybe Echo, but it's more of like a residual story Echo.
And she gets down on the classiest renegade fight scenes too. Once you get into it, like she she gets in a lot of like physical physical uh renegade like combat. Even when she's like a smaller child, they show her like signing and stuff, but then not too long after that, she's like pretty much shows you like why she has this little edge to her, to where if it was anyone else, you'd probably be hung up on a list of things. But she presses forward, and eventually it progresses to where she's an adult, and we get some recap and progression from where she was in the Hawkeye show.
And then she just starts getting that droll like empathy thing, where it's like, I'm just like you, you're just like me, from like Kingpin, Hawkeye when he's like Ronin, and then I was expecting it like a few more times, but she's like, I thought she was over it, but she finally gets it after Hawkeye finishes spiel, and then you see why she like confronts him. But it's pretty, it keeps us going forward pretty quick, just so we're not like hung up on Hawkeye or anything. So she's like doing her own thing and pretty much kind of shows you her attitude through some scenes and her ever increasing need for things to be going forward to what she wants.
We get a lot of like good indigenous actors in this too, like from the flashback and like just all throughout the uh episode. You'll like see them and then recognize them immediately, and they give you like this sense of like they all came together for this project and stuff, and kind of like filled in that vibe for you from whatever it is that you're expecting. And it doesn't take you long before you're like full on like absorbed into like what's happening. And each of these characters like give you like the start or the end of like a certain message, but not like an exact lesson per se. It's just a thing they want to convey. Like at the beginning there's like kind of, I don't want to say like obvious, but it's like pretty like up there, like on top of like the things you notice of people being of the earth and they came from there. But it's also like a kind of like bloodline family thing. As I'm sure I completely butcher it as I make note of it, but kind of like they were existing however they were before, and then they were set on their own, or they set off to be one of their own, separate from whatever it was that was the regular, or just separate from a different existing group, with all that to happen to relay, like, pretty much you're like, you're on your own. Not so much basically like from birth, but whatever it is it took is taken you, and it's kind of like pushing you forward. And this is like on screen, that part where she's like taking a drink of that like starry mystical water, to when they emerge out of like the cave, and the whatever it is sheath of something like kind of looks like mud, and it like cracks off of them, and immediately Chafa, she's like, hey, follow me, and it shows the Choctaw people already like getting at it, like whatever it was. You can allude the nature thing, uh, the pacing of life or something, and it's giving you that what it is you're doing it, but you're not doing it because it's what it is. Because immediately after this, it shows young Maya Lopez. Uh, she's taken away from her mom because she gets in an accident with her mom, and she loses a limb, and her mother, and a lot of her family except her dad, because of the argument of that happens afterwards after the accident, and nothing really settles. Just to be beholden of the message, it wouldn't be that great if it did settle. But it shows her getting on. She's like doing karate or taekwondo or something with her dad in proximity, but he's like kind of like handing off like stacks of money to people, and like kind of do that weird thing that looks very shady from afar. But Maya's really good at it and beats up a very large child compared to her, and gives you that quick transition to her being an adult, and then all that stuff with the Kingpin up to Hawkeye, and lets you have that, oh, Kingpin's her uncle? And eventually he sets her off to basically go to confront Daredevil. They kind of give Kingpin like this Deus ex machina thing, to where like it kind of seems like he's taking in people that aren't related to him, because they kind of get, everyone's like mob mobstery or something, but he is like, oh, okay, well, this one's related to me, and I could set her off to greater like fields, but she doesn't relate, with Daredevil, because she ends up fighting, and and like, yay, Daredevil, but then it's like, oh, Kingpin's just gonna like, that's not what I was expecting. Of course, I'm filling this in with like my own context and everything, or subtext. Him like wanting to create greater pastures for Maya, but not like tell her what to do. He's like, look at me, look at what happens, look at that guy. Like, I can't care about you, but I do. Maybe I could like set you against the people I don't care about, and then it will work itself out. But it sent someone I care about against me. All these like little avenues that he like never had to deal with before.
I have to say, it seems like it's something like you would want to have happen, but it's so bad. It's like, oh, like I have this all figured out. Like, okay, like, the hench people are trying to please me. Like, they're doing this, they're doing that. I don't really need anything like that. They don't really get along, but this is what's happening. Everything flipped, and I hate it. And that's all I wanted it for the longest time. At this point, he seems pretty humanized, like so badly. Like he was just this great character, living character that can live human men above his head and throw him and just get a merciless beating and just not even like be phased. I kind of felt bad before because like his favorite thing to do was watch that painting that was just like a textured white canvas, and now he's just a regular person dealing with like regular stuff.
But eventually, uh, we catch up with the what feels like immediate uh events and like what's happening with her now because she's like limping. She has like a wound. She's like trying to like collect herself, and she eventually makes it to her childhood home. And then she gets a night in, and then her cousin and a lot of other stuff happens. But basically, it's giving you that blast of nostalgia. There's like a roller rink. She's like kind of like spying on people she used to know from a long time ago. You know, kind of like everything you would do if you like moved away and then came back to visit someone in the original place you started at, or at least like one of the places like you left. And it ends with pretty much the introduction of a handful of characters you didn't see in a single flashback, and the edges of like a story that's about to kind of like interlay itself with what's happening. And even though she thought she dealt with Fisk, she's still moving into that mode because she's like having ideas to target something with the Fisk name on it, and she's like looking for help, but everyone's like, no, that's some big city stuff.
But all in all, it's kind of like pretty good. Like in my opinion, it's like what's the best thing to do, but it's never gonna get that best vibe. So she's just like doing something, but her dad just died, so would have been better just to not do anything and just kind of like I don't know if she's like a wallowing kind of person, but probably not. But it also hits that middle ground of that's the top 100 things not to do when that happens. So good thing this is a show.
And I'll be back with you on episode 2, and that's called Lowok. I hope you are enjoying these as much as I am. But this was Sleep Atomic, and I'm Alistair. And if no one's told you yet, you look good, and it shows.